Well, I was inspired by this picture right here. It's from a wig company. Make sure you're following on all my socials, Instagram and TikTok, Sassy Maddie Makeup. Let me know what you want to see for this channel. Still trying to figure out a lot of things for this channel. It's 8 o'clock and I think I started this at like 4. This look won't take that long. If you do recreate it, tag me on your socials because I would love to see it and love it if you would subscribe. Let's see how I got this makeup look. Hello everyone, let's jump right on in. We're first going to start with the Makeup Revolution Blur Priming Serum and apply that all over the skin very gently. For foundation, I'm using the HudaBeauty one. I don't know the exact name for it, so I will have all the products listed in the description box. And I'm just blending it out with a sponge for a seamless finish. This foundation shade is a little bit lighter than my actual skin tone, but it is a clown look, so I wanted to go for a lighter foundation. And this is very full coverage. This is the moment where I drop some on my shirt and it's still stained a month later. Now on to concealer. I'm using the e.l.f. Camo Concealer in the lightest shade that I have. And again, I'm applying it in the T-zone to highlight and blending it out with the butt. Yes, I know. Random thing of the sponge. And I always do my chin and my forehead and then my nose. I don't know. It's just a way that I like to do it. And then of course concealing those under eye dark circles because during this process I get no sleep, and I'm using the little trick where you drag it up kind of like you would do your wing liner to bring that lifted appearance to that face, and using the pointed side of the blender to bounce it into my skin. Now for powder, I'm using the Colourpop No Filter powder. I don't know, again, it'll be in the description box. And I'm using that to set my face. Like we primed, we're also setting so that the makeup lasts all night if you are wearing this out. But for me, just so that other products apply better. And I did have this on. This was a 4-hour process, and by the end I was already oily, so if you don't really have oily skin you may not need to set it. I first powdered under the eyes with a little tiny like eyeshadow powder brush just so that I can really press the powder into the creases, and then using the sponge to really press the powder into my skin, because I find that helps the longevity of the makeup if I do press it in, but I only press it in with the sponge in specific areas as like the under eyes to help with creasing, and then the T-zone because that's where I get the most oily. And now with a giant powder brush to first press it into the skin, and then I swirl it so that I know that when I apply my bronzer and swirl it on my skin, it won't disrupt the foundation underneath. I I also realized that I didn't put foundation underneath where my hair was, up to like my hairline, so that may be sticking through. We're next going in with the Revolution bronzer. I believe it's the Cool Tone one. Again, in the description box, and I'm using that to bronze just to give a little more dimension to the face. And my bronzer brush, oh my gosh, is stained with black eyeshadow, but it didn't transfer onto the skin. And I'm also applying bronzer and actually lifting up my hair so that it kind of blends a little bit better where I didn't apply the foundation. And of course, the jawline, and I do go down the neck just to match the color. I'm going in with the Natasha Denona bronzer highlight little mini palette, and I'm using the matte shade in there to contour my nose. I have a full contouring video on my TikTok, but if you guys want me to do a full in-depth tutorial here on this channel, let me know and I will create one. I'm just using an eyeshadow brush to contour the sides of my nose and underneath. And then I'm using the Fenty Beauty No Filter powder in the lavender shade. This is the only step that I use this specific shade in the powder for, and I use it to clean up the contour, and the powder kind of got a little messy, so I went back with the eyeshadow brush to clean that up. Now we're going in with the Colourpop Lippie Stix in the shade Poppin. I don't believe that they still sell this anymore, but any hot pink lipstick, I prefer a matte one just because it'll last a little bit longer, and this is what we're using to fill in the brows. And I'm just using an angled brow brush, following my natural shape, kind of like how I would fill my brows in with a pomade or like a powder or like anything, just using it with lipstick. And after I did the pink brows, it made me want to do more pink brows a little bit more often. Now we're going to prime the eyes with the Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer. This does have a little bit of a tint so that it'll cancel out any darkness or discoloration I may have on my eyes. I'm first blending it out with a brush, but the brush can give a little bit of streaks, so I'm also going in with my finger just to pat out any of those creases. Now we're going in with the Morphe and Jeffree Star collaboration palette, and we're using one of the shades, don't remember, in to set the eye base, because if I don't, they will crease. And now we're dusting off that bake from our nose. And not only am I dusting it away, I'm also using that brush to blend out the contour so it's not so harsh. Now we're going into the shade Back, and that's the shade we're gonna first apply into our crease. It's a super fluffy brush. That's the brush that I'm using. Just as like an all over color. Now we're going into the I Do Not Care little mini palette from Voss. I'm going in with that pink shade to start deepening up the pinks. And I just go a little bit at a time because you can always add more, but you can't really take away. As I keep adding more of that pink shade from the Voss palette. Now we're going back to the Morphe and Jeffree Star palette and using the shade Self-Made on an even smaller, denser brush. And we're using that to, again, deepen up the crease, add more definition, add more pink. And we're going back to the previous brush that we used with the Voss palette, the pink one, to blend it out, and with a super tiny brush I'm going into like the purplish pinkish shade in the Voss palette to start deepening it up. Now this part I was having a very difficult time. I would say just go in with the lipstick instead of this product, the NYX Vivid Brights. I don't even know how you're supposed to use this product. It like dragged on my eyes. Don't really recommend it, but I do recommend a lipstick that is eye safe. Do your research, because I don't believe every lipstick is eye safe, and I don't want any complications if you are using it. A lipstick. Now going back in with the shade Self Made, and I'm pressing that shade as close to my lower lash line as possible. Now going back in with the pink shade and the violet Voss with a fluffier, kind of denser brush to smoke that out, and I'm using a coat of mascara. Any mascara will do, because we are going to apply falsies. This is just the L'Oreal Voluminous original mascara. It's just mascara that I chose for the day. And of course those lower lashes. And I'm using some LA Color Faux Mink lashes. I will have them in the description box, the exact style. But these have surprised me. I think this was like my first time using them, and I really like them. They're super light but also very dramatic. They're just the perfect thing. And now for blush, I'm using a Tarte Amazonian Clay blush. This was a sample that I got in my Ipsy bag. And it's okay if you go overboard, because we are trying to look like a clown. I'm just piling it on to my cheeks. Really just trying to make the cheeks pink. And I do go over my nose just so that blends a little seamlessly, and it kind of looks like you have a little sunburn. Going back in with that Colourpop Lippie sticks, I'm just applying some on my finger, not flipping you guys off, I promise you. And I'm just using that to pat it on my nose for like a little clown nose, like a glam clown nose. Try to say that 10 times fast. Going in with the Wet n Wild highlighting powder in the shade Blossom Glow, I believe. I am spraying my brush. You can do it with like any like setting spray that you have, and just to intensify it. This is a pink toned highlighter to go with the pink theme. I'm applying that on my cheekbones. I apply it on my chin, above my brow, on my cupid's bow, and I do eventually add some on the bridge of my nose. Don't believe that I show that. Going back in with the Lippie Sticks Colourpop lipstick, and I'm using that to create like the clown smile, whatever you want to call it. I first started on my mouth, a little bit farther away from the end of my mouth, and I go right like in the middle of my eye, down, and then I connect it going out and up. And this is time consuming, so just be patient. You may have to go back in. I go back in a lot, thickening it, making it the way that I want it to, because it kind of looks a little weird at the beginning, but then it all turns out in the end. You can tell how focused I am trying to do this, because it's very time consuming and very tedious. And now for the triangle above the eye, I'm just doing a straight line down, kind of right above where the bottom line is, and I'm just doing a straight line and then starting to make diagonal lines for that triangle. And it's okay if they're not perfect, they're a little too thick, a little too curvy. We adore all of those, but if you want to be nitpicky like I am, then we're going in with a concealer. This is the Revolution Pot Concealer. I'm just using a brush to clean it up because I wanted a straight line. It's all personal preference. These are super small. Make them as big or as small. Make it your own. just using whatever powder is left over on that brush that I used to set her eyelids, to just set that so the concealer wouldn't move. And I'm going in on like an angled brush to kind of connect the outside lines in to my mouth, and then filling it in for our lips. And I realized that I wasn't even in frame for most of me doing my lips. I need to work on that. It's always been a problem, making sure that it's in frame so that you guys can see it. Yeah. And lipstick for me is a tedious process, but I love it. As you can probably tell, the sun has gone down at this point, as we are 4 hours later. Going back in with that Wet n Wild highlighter to highlight that inner corner. Yeah, so let's see how it turned out. For this channel yet. Make sure you're following on all my socials, Instagram and TikTok, Sassy Maddie Makeup. Here's to a fabulous spooky season and to what this channel holds.